Good morning, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. I think I am live. Once again this week, I decided to do the intro directly because I have exciting news to update you on. But firstly, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for supporting these amazing conversations that I have with incredible, real people who are leaders and successful and are kind enough to share their time with us and spend time as almost mentors to us to bring real messages and real lessons to all of you. And so thank you to them for their support, and thank you to you for coming along and supporting. And you know how fantastic that you are here and that you spend this time. It's 30 minutes. It's really important time. Leadership can be really, really lonely. And so being part of an environment where you can access other leaders, you can access mentoring, which can be really hard to come by, is fantastic. So congrats to you for actually making the time, taking it out of your day and coming along and joining us here. So I'm really thrilled to be here. I will introduce Jamie Warner in a little while. In the meantime, this video gives everybody time to jump on. Well, it's not a video. This time I'm live. It gives everybody a chance to jump on and get things sorted, including us. So I just need to see if we are live on LinkedIn now. I think we are. And we'll actually get started with the actual interview once I make sure that that is happening. Sorry, it's not doing what I want it to do. Here we go. We're live. I've got it. Oops. Okay. All right. So technical glitch over. So I wanted to share with you, the reason I do this, as I say, is to bring you mentoring. And I've had a number of people say to me that they would love to get more access and deeper insights into leadership, into some of the people. Hi, Connor. Thank you. Some of the people that we get on board here. And so I have been really lucky, and over the last 25 years, I have worked with some incredible leaders, and I've seen a lot of leaders grow from salespeople, from operational roles into incredibly strong leaders. I've seen a lot of people rise. I've seen some people fall, and I've seen some people who haven't managed to get their hands on great mentoring. And so if you're going to be the best, you really need to model the best. And so my goal is to bring you some of those best real experiences so that you can use it and you can sort of create your own mentors in a sense. And what I'm going to do, because people have asked me for more, I had a really good think about it. And what I came up with was a solution that I think and I hope that everybody's going to love. Sorry if this is repetitive for anyone who was on last week. Just letting people this week know, I'm going to be packaging up some really cool extra content and providing packages of, say, five leaders who have been on. But before I meet with these leaders, I have these incredibly robust conversations where we get heaps of gold. And so I've often thought, gosh, how can I share this as well? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to share that. I'm also going to be having some ongoing conversations where we're going to drill down a lot deeper into specific topical relevant issues, and we're going to come up with some videos that will give you practical and real insights and mentoring. So that's something that I'm putting together, and you'll be able to buy this in packs, or even better, you'll be able to join up on a subscription basis. And if you join on a subscription, you will get immediate access to my leadership Facebook community, where a lot of these leaders are going to be hanging out. So you're going to get access to leaders through that. There'll be other great insights and little snippets and pop-ups that will go on in there as well. And then beyond that, I thought in order to really add value, what I'll do is we'll have a leadership mastermind and masterclass almost once a month. And so I'll be incorporating that into the paid membership. So more information is coming on it soon. If you want to be an early adopter, I will be doing some lower rates to begin with. So please ping me, just send me a message, let me know you're interested, and we'll see if we can't get you involved right away. So pretty excited about that. I hope you love it as much as I think you will. And again, so grateful to everybody who adds value to this. Hi, Mel. How are you? Happy New Year. It's kind of New Year. Happy 2021. And so now what I would love you to do is everybody to get involved in this conversation. So let us know you're there. Let us know where you're watching from, whether you're watching the live, whether you're watching the recording, and any questions. We would love you to become part of this conversation. I think if you can do that, you're going to add value to everyone. So thank you again for joining. I am now going to bring in Jamie Warner, who is my guest today, and I will give you a bit of an intro once he arrives. So I'm just going to get Jamie now. Jamie, how are you?
Hello, Rebecca. Very good. Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for taking time to join us. So I'm just going to do a quick intro and tell people who you are in case they don't know. So Jamie is a serial entrepreneur. He's currently the CEO of a fast growing startup called Envirosoft. He's also chairman of MSP eNerds. He launched eNerds, if I can speak, in 2000 when he was only 22 years old. So just giving away your age, and has grown the company organically to over 45 staff and $9 million in revenue across 4 cities. So it's a pretty cool business. And eNerds has won many awards, including SMB Partner of the Year 6 times. From 15, 16, all the way through to 2020 at the ARN ICT Awards. And in fact, that's how I met Jamie. So, Envirosoft recently won Startup Specialist of the Year as well at the ARN ICT Awards. You're going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point, I'm sure. That's legendary. Jamie's been a member of the Entrepreneurs Organisation from 2009 to 2020 and served as president in 14-15 for the Sydney chapter. So a lot of entrepreneurial experience, a lot of leadership experience, a lot of imagining challenges along the way. And so thank you again for coming along and sharing your experience with us.
Great to be here. Thank you.
I'm going to just check into the chat box from time to time because hopefully we'll have people joining us and wanting to be part of the conversation. We've got Travis here, Travis Lackner. He sent you a message. Says, "Hi, Jamie, looking fresh." There you go. Hi, Todd. How are you? Thank you for joining. Now, first question for you. Why was it that you chose to, at the age of 22, launch straight into starting a business like this?
Yes, it was young, I guess, when I think about it. I just finished a business degree, did marketing, did an honours year there, which was cool, bit tough, but it was nice. And I went away to Canada for a couple of months snowboarding, and I guess it gave an opportunity being overseas to just think about, well, what am I going to do as a young person? And really, there was just always a part of me that just wanted to do my own thing. I don't know why. I just seemed very certain about that. Part of my reasoning at the time, which was probably a young person's way of thinking, was like, well, I need to have my say. I want to be able to contribute to the logo and process over there. And why do we do this and that? And I guess I felt like with my skill set of probably just being able to talk and I don't know, just a general skill set in terms of business, nothing specific. I wasn't sort of a finance person or anything like that. I thought, I'm probably just going to end up in the same sort of role no matter where I am. So those are all the thoughts that were going through my mind, I think, 20 years ago. And at that point, I looked at my my parents' business, which was in recruitment, and saw their IT support and thought, yeah, even though I don't know personally much about IT support, I think that would be a good business to be in. And that was probably the extent of the business plan, even though I'd just done a business degree. There wasn't a lot of thought other than that. And so I thought I could do a better job, and I knew someone technical, and my brother was sort of somewhat technical, and that's kind of where the journey started.
Yeah. Interesting. It's interesting. I've been in recruitment in sort of sales leadership for so many years, and there is a theme, and the theme that I tend to find is either someone is moving away from something that they didn't have. So is, someone who has perhaps suffered hardship and is wanting to build something and be better, or someone who comes from an entrepreneurial family. And it sounds like perhaps you come from the entrepreneurial family. You saw your parents in action, as did I. And so I never wanted to work for anyone else. So I get it. And so what were the key things that you found when you stepped into it that you didn't know, or that you didn't know you didn't know?
There was a particular insurance we didn't have, I realized after a few months, and went, whoop, you're supposed to have workers' comp or something like that. You do university, and I do advocate for uni, I have to say, but at the end of the day, there's the 1%ers you need to set up a company and do it properly. So I was a bit green in that regard. And, not having thought out the business plan properly, it was a wee bit tough at the start, to be honest. And I think I spent the first year or two looking at Seek. Seek had just come out, and I saw all my friends sort of progressing, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, this is a wee bit harder than I thought it was. And but I stuck at it, obviously. And the thing that really changed, I have to say, and it's probably something to think about depending on what you're doing, is you do need to get a business model right, in the sense of, what is that business model? So when I first started, and in my industry, they talk about being break fix, which I didn't know the term in those days. I just ad hoc, I guess. IT support. So you charge someone a monthly, you just charge when you do the work, time and materials. Or in this day and age, they talk about MRR, monthly recurring revenue. These are new terms, typically associated with SaaS. They didn't have those terms in those days, and so I was fussing about for at least 8 months, banging my head against the table with a bubble jet color printer, a fax line, and just one PC, staring out a window, going, "What am I doing?" So it was quite tricky. But once we got the business model right, and we started to charge people a monthly fee, I could see how, well, if I just sign up more deals than I lose, then I'll probably keep growing. And that was, nothing much has changed since then, to be honest. That's generally the philosophy.
Were you lucky enough to have any mentors at the time? Did you have anyone to sort of learn off?
Not really. It was obviously my parents being entrepreneurial was a starting point to make it acceptable as a pathway, I guess, in that sense. And of course, they were fully supportive of that. But I did struggle a wee bit with the mentor side of things, and really found like I was grinding my way through for those first few years. And you'd meet people along the way. And it wasn't until I met a client in 2006, and he said, "Oh, you should join Entrepreneurs Organization." And I looked at it, and they said, "Oh, you've got to have $1 million revenue to get in." And at the time, we weren't. And so I sort of forgot about it until we'd sort of grown a fair bit, and 2009 rolled around, and that's why I joined EO. And that was probably the starting point of being associated with other entrepreneurs and learning and growing. And that's the whole tenet of that organization. And I think that's kind of really helped me along the way. Obviously, you meet a certain people that help you with certain aspects of a business, and you take those gold nuggets and you appreciate, but there probably wasn't anyone for that first decade that I could say was that person that I would turn to. And I don't think that's a great thing. I think it makes it a wee bit harder. So I'm very much an advocate of having people around you that can provide counsel and ideas and advice and all that sort of jazz. It's a very lonely experience sitting in front of a computer in that sense, especially when you're young. In those days, being young and an entrepreneur wasn't like cool or anything. Like, there was no of these amazing startups you see today. It was quite isolating. You'd go out and you'd meet people, and they say, "Well, what do you do?" It's like, "Oh, I have my own business." And they're like, "Yeah, that just sounds dodgy. Like, what are you talking about?" Like, it wasn't it wasn't the kudos that you get maybe these days with all these superstars out there. So anyway, yeah, I definitely advocate for mentors, but didn't have a lot in the early days,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important for people to seek that out and to, yeah. And a lot of people say to me when I ask them the question, well, no, there was no mentor program. There was not really an option to have mentors. It's up to us, I think, to go and
Yeah.
find mentors or to look for other people who are successful and how have they done it, and learn from what they can bring. So so that's why, I mean, something like the Entrepreneurs Organization, that would be an incredible tool, an incredible environment to jump into, and probably a bit of a rude awakening to a point.
Yeah, it was a rude awakening, I have to say. There
Yeah.
were chaps and male and female entrepreneurs in there that were doing wonderfully well, and in fact were probably making more profit than most people turn over. And I have to say, though, I never really felt jealous of that. I just saw it as an opportunity to learn, quite frankly, and thought,
Mm,
well done on them for figuring out, their little world, patch of the world, and I just thought, okay, well, let's listen and see what we can
yeah.
garner from that. And there's been a lot of gold nuggets I've learned over that time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Um, so people would be a key part to what you've had to build. Obviously, your product is effectively people in terms of their servicing your customers. So how important has that been, and what were some of the things you've sort of learned are important when it comes to building a team?
Well, certainly, firstly, professional services, it is fundamentally customer service in whatever industry you're in. And so eNerds being IT support, you're really just a customer service business in technology. And we've been preaching that, and I realized that very early on. And so when you're searching for talent and people to join and come on the journey with you, it is that we focus on in terms of finding people that can do both. And it's really the technical side and the customer service side. And it's hard. It was
Mm,
hard at the start. And you do get burnt in this world of professional services if people don't resonate with the client, or if they're just not capable of delivering what you would expect. When you're smaller and you're wearing more hats, you do need more people that can kind of do all of that. As you get a bit bigger, like we have, you can get away with being super technical and not really worrying about the customer too much, depending on what role you're doing. But largely speaking, that what you do, I guess, defines the type of people that you need in your organization. And being clear on that is probably the first thing. Is like, well, what is it that we need as a personality type and talent to fulfill a role and to service the client that we do? And over the years, if you get that wrong, it has such a dire impact on your ability to not only service the client but retain the client. And churn
yeah.
is one of the biggest busters of any business, especially well, if you've got a sort of a monthly reoccurring style of it, you don't want to have too much churn. And up until even a few years ago, you can hire. For me personally, you can make mistakes and you hire people, and war stories for me is that I had clients for well over a decade, and I lost two of them because of poor servicing from an individual that I didn't realize, and I have to take responsibility for that. And so getting the right people's really comes from clarity of what you need. And I do think there's a bit of a law of attraction. You put it out there and you tend to get them, but sometimes you have to recruit fast, and that's always a problem, because you can't often get that exact right person immediately, and so sometimes you're under pressure in your business to do that based on capacity. But if you spend the time and effort to do that, you can. And we've been lucky to have some amazing people come on that journey with us, for some of them over 15 years and quite a few over 10 years. And so that's been amazing. I think for people to be there that long with you is, there's a lot of factors involved there. But I could go down that road. But certainly there's a little bit of luck as well. It's
Yeah.
something that you can only reflect on after the fact.
Yeah. Do you use a lot of internal referral? Do you ask people to refer people to you, or how do you normally go to market, or do you look at competitors for people?
Well, we do all of those things, I guess. Firstly, we'll look at referrals. I think it's the best source, especially when you're talking about specific technical skill sets. They tend to have worked with other people, and so there's definitely an element of that in our business, which is amazing. We typically will advertise and do the normal thing, and headhunting out of other businesses. Probably haven't done a huge amount of that, to be fair. But as we grow and scale, so especially some of the more senior positions, we're probably going to have to activate more of that over time to get the right talent.
Yeah. I think when it's to a point for the senior roles, you need to be constantly networking as well, and just meeting people and not ever considering a conversation, a one-track conversation with anyone. You never know who
Well,
you're going to meet, and if you're at industry events and all of those things, you've really
a
got
great
to.
example of that, I'll just jump in and say, is
Yeah.
perfect point, I guess, is our GM of sales and advisory. He's basically helped us triple the size of the business, and it was at a social event that we met, and I was asking him what he did, and he's told me, and I said, "Oh, we're actually looking for someone," and he, being salesy, obviously said, "Well, I might be interested in that role," and probably 6 interactions later, he decided to come on this journey and has been ever since. That was 2010. So I agree.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's so important. You've got to have eyes and ears open all of the time, and especially when it's the key roles. And so you mentioned to me on another conversation we had, you used the term bleeding green, which was the around your culture and what it is to be, what do you call it, an eNerd? Yeah, I suppose you would call it an eNerd. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So what does that actually mean? Like, what are the things that you look for in the people that you want to bring into your business?
Yeah, and I think anybody bleeding green that's obviously our color, and it's also the color of Arisoft, but
Yeah,
must love green. But
yeah,
the it's really just a concept of bleeding your company colors. So whatever your company colors are, it's that individual that just you don't need to explain, to put a wee bit extra effort here or there, and they just do all the things to support the business, and they're on that journey and they really enjoy it. They believe in your vision and where you're going and your purpose. I think it's really important to be clear on your purpose. For us, it's to innovate and improve the way IT services are being delivered. That's kind of why we get out of bed, and they look around and they just bleed green. They're there to support the business, and we all know what people like that. We all know the individuals in our companies that are doing that, and the ones that aren't doing that. And the more people you can have bleeding your company colors, the better it is for you to have a sustainable business. And because it can be quite disruptive to have churn of staff and having to fulfill roles all the time, and we have a bit of that in certain areas of the business. But if you can kind of keep your key senior kind of spine of a business cranking, I think your spine needs to be bleeding the company color,
yeah,
and they're the ones you can kind of build around.
yeah. It kind of feels like the way you describe it, it's very much grounded in, it just is. It's
It
just
just
kind of
is. It just
grounded.
is what it is.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it, like they put the effort, and they get, sometimes those type of people get a wee bit stressed out because they take it really personally, and they put all that
Yeah,
extra effort in and energy, and you've got to take care of them. And you've got to acknowledge when that's happening. And sometimes they don't take care of themselves.
mm,
Sometimes they get really fired up
mm,
and having some pretty testy conversations as if they're the boss.
yeah,
And sometimes, I've got some people in our team that you'd wonder who is actually the boss of running this
yeah,
thing. But that's great. I mean, how good is that? So, yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Nurture those ones. A good gold nugget is someone explained to me once, is just that graph where if you had a X and Y axis, and along the top it's performance, along the bottom it's attitude. Probably should, I don't know which way I should be drawing with a camera, but ultimately you want to, if you broke up that into 4 boxes, the top right is top performance, the top right quadrant is top performance and best attitude. Below that is not the best performance, but great attitude. You obviously want to lock those in. Lock the top right one, lock them in. They're the ones bleeding green. Anyone that's high performing, bad attitude, or just bad at everything. You want to make some decisions there, and that visually kind of is probably a structured way of explaining what bleeding green means, or bleeding
Yeah.
your company color.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to do sometimes as well, isn't it? When you've got a high performer, but they're not bleeding the right, they're not living the right values, and it's a mistake I see many leaders make where they keep them in the business for too long, and it
Correct.
can have a really bad effect.
No, it absolutely does, and yeah, there's nothing good about that long term. There just isn't. They destroy relationships around them, and it's almost like if you think about your company culture being a bubble, and then think about them being in their own bubble over here.
Yeah,
It's just complete disconnect, and
yeah,
that's just not going to help you row in a particular direction if they're kind of
yeah,
being an anchor or doing their other thing over there. So,
yeah,
agreed.
totally. Yeah, I was listening to it was I don't know if it was a podcast or it was on YouTube this morning. It was Simon Sinek, because I'm a Simon Sinek groupie, and he was talking about The Infinite Game, which is his most recent book, and he was talking about the fact that we all see this really competitive, hardcore. That's it's probably the old leadership speak. It's like we've got to win, we've got to be number one, and all the rest of it. And that's that sort of mentality where you've got to have the high performers all the time. Whereas his view is that's not playing the infinite game, because at the end of the day, when you reach your goal, you've still got more to go. It's not the end. So how do you sustain it? So I loved that. I thought,
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
read the book, but it reminded me this morning. It was great.
He's obviously, anybody hasn't seen or read, everybody probably has these days, but Simon Sinek, he's got a great way of looking at things, and it's true. I mean, it's like Jim Collins says, it's the long march. It's something that, building something sustainable is great. I think what happens is that with all these stories of startups growing so fast, raising money and selling, to a new generation of entrepreneurs, it's quite appealing. And I have to say, I probably thought that way when I was younger as well. And it does happen, there's no doubt, but it's generally the exception, not the rule. And if you have a mindset of a marathon, building something sustainable, you'll put yourself in good stead. I follow and learning more about the SaaS world. There's a community called SaaStr, SAASTR, and it was started by a particular chap, Jason Lemkin, who basically built EcoSign and sold that to Adobe, which is now called Adobe Sign. And one of the things that he always says, and I totally agree with it, probably thought it myself, but he articulated it verbally, I would think first, more than me thinking about it, was the fact that any entrepreneurial journey, you've got to be in for 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years. So those first 2 years that I was sitting at a desk, banging my head against the desk, thinking, what am I doing, looking on Seek? Yeah, that's part of the journey. And so many people think, oh, give it a go, and then, we'll see how it goes for a year or two. And it's like, sorry, you've got to be all in. And you've got to be all in for a sustained period of time. And you're probably going to be a bit obsessive about it. And you're going to be the one standing at the barbecue with your mates thinking about a deal or thinking about how to grow or thinking about how to change. And that's what entrepreneurial is. It's an obsession. It's an obsession for going somewhere, doing something a certain way. And if you don't think you can do that for a sustained period of time, then it may not be the right thing, because it's like one of those curves. It's just flat lines and then it hockey sticks at the end. But how long it flat lines could be a decade, could be 5 years, could be 15 years. And then boom, you get that inflection because you finally get all it right. And as Jim Collins says, he talks about pushing the flywheel around, and every iteration and everything you fix in your business is ultimately a push forward of that flywheel until it builds more momentum and more momentum. Those things take time. And so if that's what Simon Sinek was talking about, in the sense of, taking a longer view of that journey, then I completely concur. It's frustrating as all hell to be sitting there and wanting things to be faster, and they're not. Believe me, 20 years in the saddle, 21 years in this. I mean, it's can be extremely excruciatingly painful to just know that you want to be over here, but you're back there. But when you look at businesses, especially family businesses that are generational, ones that have started the test of time, it has been that sustained effort that has kind of led to that growth. And you might come in and just see the end result and not kind of factor in the 20, 30 years, the 10 years that someone's been putting a lot of effort and time in to build something.
Yeah. And now you're jumping in and doing it all again. Well, you have been for a little while.
Yes. And I'm
yeah.
feeling all those feelings all over again, quite
Yeah,
frankly,
right.
you know, and in the world of software, you search for what they call product market fit, and we're still striving towards that. Some people get it quickly. Some people it takes 5, 6, 7 years. And again, it's just, can you sustain an energy towards something because you believe it, and you believe it in all your heart. And I think that's part of leadership too, is that if you want to engage people on your journey, you need to be clear about where you're going and what you're doing, but really believe, like, what is your purpose? And people will buy into whatever it is. As Simon Sinek says, they don't buy what you do, they buy what you believe, your why.
Yeah, totally.
And the why helps people come on a journey with you for a sustained period of time as well. And I guess it's up to us as leaders, and entrepreneurs tend to do this more so. There's a lot of energy there, probably a bit loose in the back end, but tends to be a lot of energy there. But you need to have a clear vision. And I think the one thing that sets certain entrepreneurs apart is kind of not only achieving the goals, but sort of, if you're saying something to someone, is demonstrating that you're going to do the 1%ers to get there, and that they can kind of trust that what you say is actually what is going to happen. And anyway, so really, really interesting. Can't say much, more that it is important to think long term in an entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. You've just touched on about 5 points that I want to dive deeper into, and we are 3 minutes to 12. So thank you. That's just, and your passion comes across. And I think that if you didn't have passion, you wouldn't have the resilience. It just wouldn't be there. You've got to really, like you say, really truly believe. And
you've got to be a half glass full type person.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I mean, I think if you're constantly seeing the negatives, then that is going to be a struggle. And you'll ask most entrepreneurs, would you do it again? And when you've come so far down the road, it's a hard decision to start from scratch. It took me a year to make the decision to commercialize the technology that we built in eNerds, and I thought, do I have the gas to go another 5, 10 years? And the answer was yes, and so we gave it a go. But energy, positivity, important.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Thank you so much. So much gold already, and I'm hoping I can convince you to come and have a chat to me in some more sort of private conversations where we can drill down into some of this stuff a little bit more deeply, that I can then share with those who are interested, because I think there's so many topics that have come up today that we can delve into. I do have one more question for you. I'm not getting any questions in the chat, so I know that there are 11 people on. So no pressure, guys. But anything to add or ask? In the meantime, what would be, if you could only give one piece of advice to an upcoming leader or entrepreneur, let's say, what would it be?
Well, there's probably a few, but if it was the one, I think you've got to listen. You've got to observe and listen to team members and people within your business. Listen to your clients. Listen to, it's probably more watching versus listening, but listen to what the market is doing and competitors are doing, and make good observations from all of that listening, and that will help you drive forward, over and above having a long-term approach to things and understanding that it's not easy. I think being able to listen and observe is probably the biggest thing, because ultimately you don't know everything you need to do to get from point A to point B, and that concept of the law of attraction, it's like, you want to get down there, but you don't know the 877 steps to get there. And so really, as you go on an entrepreneurial journey, it's being able to adapt and change. And I guess why maybe Darwin talks about, the people that survive are the ones that can adapt, not the strongest, the fittest, or anything. It's adaptation. And how do you adapt is listening and observing what's going on in your own space. And, COVID is an example on how many businesses took stock and iterated and changed. made changes so that they could survive. Some businesses you may not need to make a huge amount of change, but some really did need to, and some didn't make those changes, and they didn't look and listen and adjust, and those are the ones that will struggle. And that fundamentally comes down to leadership, and it's not just the CEO or the business owner to do that. You ideally do need teams, mentors, other people around you that can provide insights to take the stuff you're listening and observing, and then output that into some strategic decision making. So now more than ever is the time to think longer term about what we're doing, and I think that's probably an important part that you need to do.
Yeah. So seeking and accepting and using feedback, based on listening to what the hell's going on.
To drive the business forward, to make those changes, like we talked about, the flywheel. How do I improve? Oh gosh, that's not working. That's not working. That's not working. Build. It's a builder mindset. Fundamentally, being an entrepreneur, you are just building something. And so, but unlike a building that has a architect create the structure and then you go and do that, imagine building a building with no architectural drawing whatsoever. It's a blank piece of paper, and you need to kind of just feel it as you go and make those decisions. And so the better you can be at that, and you can be better at that just by practicing. Ultimately, you can be a better entrepreneur by practicing. I don't think there are people that are salesy that pop out of the womb. I'm probably one of those sort of people, and that's great. But being an entrepreneur is more than that. It's trying to create something, and how good are you at executing and getting there? And that's why I guess it's just listening and observing that enables you to kind of keep it moving forward so that you can adjust and change.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. I have enjoyed today's conversation. I hope everybody else has as well. The chat box has gone a little quiet, but I'm sure there's been value in that for everyone. And as I say, I will reconnect with you, and hopefully we can just drill down on some of these great sort of tidbits and nuggets that you've raised. I appreciate all of it.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me. And you could talk about this sort of stuff for hours, but it is fascinating. I think one of the great things about what you're doing here is that hearing from other entrepreneurs is such a good way. Whether you're an entrepreneur yourself or you're not, or you're thinking about it, it's just a great way of learning. So hopefully, there's one thing I said that was interesting, and I do appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to stay here just for a couple of minutes and just finish off the conversation. So just, I'm going to say goodbye to you now, and I will speak to you very soon.
Thanks. Take care.
See ya. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I found that incredibly insightful, and I hope you did too. And as I say, there are some morsels in there that I will be following up, and some things that I think are really worth diving a little more deeply into. So I appreciate you joining. And just to remind you, if you want to become part of my leadership community, you need to send me a message. You can DM me, or you can email me, or you can go to my website, which I haven't got a page organized for you here, but I will have by next week. So the Ignite Leadership series is expanding. We are going to be bringing a lot more information and really practical steps that you can use in your leadership and in your growth as an individual. And then part of the leadership community that I've created, there'll be a lot of personal development work we'll be doing in there, as well as leadership development and so forth. So I hope that I see you next week, and I'm just confirming who I have on next week, but I will be announcing that very soon. And I look forward to chatting to you either before or then. Okay, take care.